Welcome to this video on exam topic 4, creating and using arrays. My name's Andy Wiggs, and in this video we're going to be looking at how to declare, instantiate, initialize and use a one-dimensional array. We're also going to look at declaring, instantiating, initializing and using a multi-dimensional array. And finally, we're going to look at declaring and using an array list. So let's get started. With one-dimensional arrays, an array is just a list of things, either primitives or objects. So for example, a shopping list is a one-dimensional array of items to be bought. Eggs, butter, sweets, oranges and bananas in this case, there are 5 items. So the size of the array is 5. But the first item in the array is numbered 0. Because you've gone past 0 items to get to the eggs. To get to butter, you need to go past 1 item. To get to sweets, you need to go past 2, and so on. An array is an object in its own right. So if you want to see whether 2 arrays are the same, you have to use dot equals and not the equals equals. And their size is fixed once they're created. So for example, an array of integers of size 3 will be of size 3 all the way through your program. Not 2, not 4. Having created an array, that's it, fixed. You can create its size when you initialize it, or you can create its size by putting objects in. Whichever method you use, once that size is fixed, it's fixed. Now let's look at a simple question on one-dimensional arrays. What output will you get from the following code? I'll give you a few seconds to have a read. Okay, do you think you've got the answer? If not, just press pause and continue reading. Well, the correct answer is D, a compile error. Let me go through that with you. The first line of code just creates an array called R1 of indeterminate size. The second line of code creates an array called R2 that will be of size 3. So there'll be 3 elements. The third line says create an array called R3 of type char. And char, in this case, is just single characters. In this case, that array will have a size of 2 and will contain character A and the character B. The fourth line of code says make R1 equal to R2. That now sets the size of R1. It doesn't set any of its content, but it sets the size of R1 to 3. The fifth line says make R1 the same as R3. And that ought to work because you can put a character, a char, into an int. So if you took the first item of R3 and put that into the first item of R1, that would work. But what we're trying to do is to make 2 arrays the same. And the type of R1 is integer and the type of R2 is char. Their types are not the same, therefore you'll get a compile error and the final line won't work. So let's move on to multi-dimensional arrays. A multi-dimensional array is a group of lists, for example a collection of shopping lists. All the lists must be of the same type, so they must all be integer or string or student. The lists do not have to be the same size, so the list for Tuesday does not have to have the same number of items as the one for Wednesday. And you do not instantiate an array using a new array with brackets. Rather, you use new and the type of the array. Now this is different to other object definitions, but hey ho, that's just the way it is. It's not new array, it's new and then type of the array. So let's move on to a question. Let's have a look at a simple question on multidimensional arrays. Which of the following are valid commands to create a multidimensional array? I'll give you a few moments to work it out. Ready yet? Well, let's have a go. Let's see whether the first one is correct. No, that's wrong. That would work if we were in Visual Basic, say, where the name of the variable takes the dimensions, but in Java it's the type of the variable that takes the dimensions. So A is incorrect. What about B? B is fine. What we're doing is we're creating an array 2. An array 2 has 2 dimensions. In this case, we're going to have 3 lists of things. One list is going to have 3 items. One list isn't going to contain any. And the final list has 5 items in. That's perfectly all right in Java. What about C? Well, C is incorrect, because we don't define an array using new array. We use its type. What about D? D is also incorrect. It looks as if it should work, but there's a problem. Notice that the dimensions are not included in brackets themselves. If you look at the first 2 examples, or even the third for that matter, you'll see that the brackets are nested within curly brackets, and that outer nesting doesn't exist in item D. Now what about the final item? Yep, that's a perfectly valid definition. All we're saying is that the first dimension is going to be 2. The other dimension is going to be the size created by whatever we decide to put in it later. Let's move on to the final section, the section on array lists. Array lists can have items inserted, deleted, and be resized. They're similar to linked lists in C and C++, but without the need to use pointers. If you've used these languages, you'll know what I mean. If you haven't, don't worry. Use array list angle brackets type to declare an array list. The type of the array list goes in that first set of angle brackets. The final set of angle brackets do not need it. So for example, if you wanted an array list of string, you'd say array list angle brackets string angle brackets, the name of the string, and equals new array list. If you wanted integer, it would be array list angle bracket int, and so on. If you wanted an array list of students, it'd be array list angle bracket student, and so on. The clone method creates a shallow copy of the array list. That's to say you don't get a second copy. What you get are 2 references to the array list. So the clone method does not create new items. It merely looks at what's in the old version. And you can use index of to find the index of a literal. So for example, if we had an array list called AL and we wanted to find the smiley face in there, we could use al.index of smiley face to return the index of the smile. If smile is not found, it will return a -1 instead. Now, what about a question on array lists? Have a read of this question. Which of the following are true for array lists? I'll give you a moment to read through it all. Okay, let's go through them one at a time. An array list offers a resizable array which is easily managed using the methods it provides. You can add and remove elements from an array list. Is that true? Well, yes, that's true. The values stored by an array list can be modified. Well, the values of all arrays can be modified, so that is true. What about C? You can iterate through the elements of an array list using a for loop, iterator, or list iterator. Again, that's true. You can use any of the three methods that you want to use. What about an array list can store any type of object? Well, yes, that's true as well. But finally E. If you frequently add elements to an array list, specifying a larger capacity will improve the code efficiency. That sounds as if it ought to be false, but in fact, it's also true. If you make the array list larger, you will gain nanoseconds in your code. Whilst that doesn't matter for the size of program you're using at university, if you were out in industry adding millions of items to an array list, that would become a factor. Well, further study. This talk is just an introduction to exam topic 4. To do well on the exam, you need to study further. Go to the Moodle site for the course, and there find the links to the Oracle Java tutorial for creating and using arrays. See the list of sections in the Mila Gupta book relevant to creating and using arrays. And also post questions and help other students in the Creating and Using Arrays forum. That way you'll guarantee yourself a good result in the exam.